going to be repeating Anthony Wong's claim about standardized testing for college acceptance. The main claim is that SAT is not an accurate measure of students' readiness for college, and it has three secondary claims. The first one is SAT has consistently shown bias against low-income students. The second one is the SAT does not take into account students' varied cultural differences and educational background. And the final claim is that SAT scores are overemphasized in college acceptance choices. The response to the first secondary claim is the SAT has consistently shown bias against low-income students. This claim that credible tutoring specifically for SAT, such as Kaplan, costs approximately $4,000 is flawed. Anthony did not provide any data to show that some students couldn't get into college because their SAT scores were low. His argument here that low-income students didn't do well in SAT because they cannot afford $4,000 for tutoring is flawed. Tutoring doesn't really do much to improve SAT scores. According to an article in May 20th, 2009 issue of the Wall Street Journal, Jonah Veron, a straight A student at Lowell High School in San Francisco, took a mock SAT test from a prep company last year. He scored 2,060 out of a possible 2,400. A few weeks later, he took the actual test. His score, 2,400, a perfect score, or 340 points higher. A report by college counselors found that SAT coaching resulted in about 30 points in score improvement out of 1,600. What Anthony neglected to point out was that parental education of students from low-income families and high-income families. According to Charles Murray, in an article published by the Journal of American Institute, the children of affluent and well-educated really do get most of the top scores. Extrapolating from the 2006 data on means and standard deviation reported by the College Board, about half of the 700 plus scores went to students from families making more than $100,000 per year. But the truly consequential statistics are these. Approximately 90% of the students with 700 plus scores had at least one parent with a college degree. Over half had a parent with a graduate degree. In that glaring relationship of high test scores to advanced parental education, which in turn means high parental IQ, lies the reason that College Board, politically correct, even unto self-destruction, cannot bring itself to declare the truth. The test isn't the problem. The children of the well-educated and affluent get most of the top scores because they constitute most of the smart kids. My counter claim here is that SAT is not biased against low-income students. It is the education system that is biased against low-income students. According to August 26, 2009 issue of the Wall Street Journal, average scores for class of 2009 average score for the 2009 SAT scores in critical reading dropped to 501 from 502. In writing, to 493 from 494, and held steady in math at 515. The combined scores are the lowest this decade and reflected score performances over the past 3 years. The reading scores are the worst since 1994. To quote Mr. Caperton, the president of the College Board, noting the gap in achievement between lower performing minority students and the general population, College Board officials said those who lacked tended to go to schools in poorer districts with fewer resources. As a country, we must really do better providing students of every background access to the best education. The second claim is that SAT does not take into account students' varied cultural differences and educational background. His claim that all schools do not have the same teaching standard is flawed. He just confirmed why the scores are not uniform. According to College Board, the SAT tells students how well they use the skills and knowledge they have attained in and outside of the classroom, including how they think, solve problems, and communicate. The SAT is an important resource for colleges. It is also one of the best predictors of how well students do in college. The SAT is a college entrance exam. The questions are meant to determine the intelligence of college applicants. Colleges are not going to look at cultural backgrounds of students to develop their curriculum, rather, but how well students can compete in the classroom. During an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Chester E. Flynn Jr., who was an educational officer in the Reagan administration, said this about the SAT scores of the recent year. This is a nearly unrelenting tale of woe and disappointment. If there is a good news here, I can't find it. He was not surprised about this year's results and hopes it brings schools, superintendents, and governors together to come up with a national standard for the SAT or for the high school curriculum. My counterclaim is that schools are failing the children or the students. The advocates should be advocating here for reform on how students are prepared for the SAT, since every college-bound high school student must take the exam. If you are applying for college, you should be able to take the SAT and pass it because you have been prepared in the classroom, regardless of your cultural background. The third claim here is the SAT scores are overemphasized in college acceptance choices. His claim that colleges only look at SAT scores is flawed. Students are not denied admission because their SAT scores are low. The reason for the emphasis on SAT is that it is not just for admission purposes. His reason about the emphasis on the SAT is flawed because quality education should not be sacrificed because some schools are underperforming. An article published in the December 5th, 2007 issue of the Washington Post states, the disappointing performance of U.S. teenagers in math and science on an international exam in scores released yesterday has sparked calls for improvement in public schools to help the country keep pace in the global economy. My counterclaim for the final claim is that the SAT is not the only critical. The SAT is not the only criteria for getting into college. According to an article in Family Education, Rick Dalton, a former director of enrollment and planning at Middlebury College in Vermont, states, college selectivity is a myth. 95% of colleges accept most of the students who apply. 65%, the Harvard and the University of Virginia, where test scores really matter. These colleges get more applicants than they could possibly accept. Students might be surprised to hear that Princeton University turns down 76% of its applicants who scored 750 and a perfect 800 on the SAT, says Joyce Slayton Mitchell, the director of college advising at Nightingale Bamford School in New York City. Students don't need to get a perfect score and perfect grades to get in. It takes more than that. they need to pursue other activities and interests that are unique to them.
Okay, Veronica, I've got to cut you off. It's been 10 minutes, so you're way, way over time. So thank you very much. We're going to move on.
Okay,
all right, thank you.